Hello, everyone, and thank you, Elia, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm so glad that all of us could make it virtually, although it wasn't our first choice. My talk is on the art of healthy longevity, commit, don't quit. By art, I don't mean art per se, I mean the art of something, the state of the art. The art in a field, in a career, in anything that we do as a skill is the meaning to be adept and excel at it. For healthy longevity, what I mean is to be highly skilled and proficient in the practice of healthy longevity. It's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to theorize about it. And many of us who are scientists and academics, we know what it's like to be in a lab and do our research. However, all of us as advocates and practitioners can be skilled and proficient at our own personalized longevity practice. I think that critical thinking is essential here, and I'll get to that at the end of my talk. We need to be careful as we analyze the different therapies, as we use the different therapies, with a dash, I might say, of skepticism.
Right.
I say this because the longevity field, which is a movement and an industry, is expanding fast. I think Jose pretty much covered that. And there's room for zealous signaling, social pressure, and echo chambers rather than taking time to gain knowledge and to learn about your own body and brain, which includes the mind, to approach health with a pragmatic sensibility. So that's my pitch. And there you go. In this talk, I'll share my 4 Encore longevity practice. It's something I've been working on for a while, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I've written about this in numerous published papers, books, scientific research, and my own practice based firsthand experience on what works for me. And I think what I learned from that is the most important element. It's that what works for me might not and probably won't work for you. And I think that when we look at healthy longevity, we need to really be aware that every body is different and to accept that and then therefore be proficient about our own. So my goal is to develop opportunities for others. Remember, I'm an academic, so I'm used to teaching, and I'm used to having students who ask me questions, and I think that's really important. So just to be explicit here, for all of you to think about where you fit in, I'm going to show you how I brought this together for myself. I look back over time and I thought, what have I done? How can I really be a proficient in 4 Encore longevity? Let me take a look at what I've done. And then I took the time to sit back and go, oh my goodness, I studied for 3.5 years at the Yoga College of India with the world's leading yoga athlete, let's call him. I have spent well over 6,000 years, 6,000 hours, 6,000 hours of my life weight training. I have a high level of fast impact athletics, skiing down the longest and steepest slope in North America. I am an expert at low impact athletics, and I've devoted 50 years of my life to transcendental meditation. I've made that meditation part of my routine. And I think that's important when we look at what we do to reduce stress in our lives. And so, with that said, I pull that into everyday habits. Exercise, I'm pretty clear on what I know about that. Nutrition, very clear. I have a certification in sports nutrition and fitness. So I've studied nutrition. Community and companions, I'm here and I love you all. And the, I have so many friends and family, but my main companions are my canines, my 2 dogs, and of course my husband. But my community is pretty solid in my friendships that I've nurtured over the years, as many of you have. And I had a complaint from someone at a talk I gave recently about that. And the person said, I have this particular illness and I can't have many friends. And that's fine. You don't need a large community. You don't need to put on a conference with 50,000 people. If you have three good friends, even two people who are your confidants, that is great. And the last point here in 4 on core is optimal rest. I have a difference of opinion about sleep. And in antiquity, when the athletes and the experts in longevity in China and India, in Greece, and during the Enlightenment, during the Renaissance, they looked at sleep differently. You didn't have to have 8 hours full sleep a night. You could break it into sections. So that's something also to take a look at, which could be something that is a misnomer, or maybe even a fallacy that we need a continuous sleep. We know we need REM 2, REM 3, and deep sleep, but it may not need to be consistent. The issue about exercise is so important for all of us. With that, there's flexibility, there is the strength and endurance. With nutrition, there's the food that we eat. It doesn't have to be Mediterranean. In fact, it can be anything that you choose. For example, I choose paleo. And in my paleo, it's a lot of fish and white meat, but largely, just want to go back to that slide. I prepare my food with a sensibility of the utensils I'm using and my cooktop. I use a specific electric cooktop that is better than gas for maintaining the nutrition in the food. So when we talk about nutrition, it's just not the Mediterranean diet or eating 80% of your food on your plate, which is a Japanese perspective, which I do agree with, but it's how we cook. Now, going back to our companions and community and colleagues, that area that is so important for our well-being. What's interesting here, again, it doesn't have to be a whole group of people. It can be one or two select people that you trust for your confidence. And that takes us to the optimal rest, which in my view doesn't have to be the full sleep. It can be how you reduce stress in life. Remember, I have 50 years of transcendental meditation. I take that throughout my day, a bit here and a bit there when I need it. So one of the best areas in the optimal rest is to find out where your stress buttons are, how they're being pushed, and what you can do to reduce that in whatever way you choose. And it very well may be that bed. But if not, you can take that sensibility throughout your life. So in looking at these areas, the exercise, the nutrition, the community or colleagues or cohorts, and optimal relaxation or rest, I did a survey to see what other people in our larger longevity community are doing. I received hundreds of responses and I've narrowed it down for you all. Going over this, I just want to make a few comments. One of the questions was, can you commit? And my talk is about commit, don't quit. This is really important. What are your habits? Be honest with yourself. I have many mistakes and many bad habits that I look at, and some of them I'll accept and allow because my better habits overrun the weak habits. I don't think we need to aspire to be rigid in our longevity practice. I think it's really important to be flexible. So take a look at this. Can you commit? Yes, the largest group, 57%, but not everyone said yes. Now look at this, almost 30% of those who took this survey said, I would like to, if it's not expensive and not time consuming. So there is a glitch here. We don't put this issue of committing to doing what it takes to be healthy as a priority. If so, 100%, 90%, even 75% of the respondents in the survey would have said, yes, I'll do what it takes, but we're not willing to do what it takes. My question is why? The second part of this, only 5 questions, I like short surveys. Are you able to cultivate new habits in your daily routine that can benefit you? If we look at the responses here, the largest response was sometimes, if I think that change is positive for me. So there's a bit of a ego getting in there, but that's good because, as I said earlier, what we need to look at our personalized longevity habits as being thus personalized. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. The third question, do you think about how to eliminate bad habits that disrupt your having a good day? Well, some of us just don't think about it. We just have a bad day, get stressed out, and move on and just put it aside. But I'll say that I think it's really important to contemplate. Not ruminate, but at least contemplate. If you look at this, what the answer is, the largest is frequently. A number of people said yes, which is great. Some said always, and some said often, and some said rarely. But here there are qualifiers too. One says always I think about my bad habits when I see them. Some said frequently I see my bad habits, I do my best to get rid of them, but I don't completely stop them. And there are a few that said yes, but if my bad habits don't really bother me, why should I stop my bad habits? Which I find really interesting. Number 4, are you willing to improve your exercise routine to include all areas of exercise? As I said earlier, it's flexibility, endurance, quick, uh, high strong impact exercise. Jogging is good, but sprinting is better for the heart. It builds up the heart, the fibers around the heart. Flexibility is great for everyone. Pilates, yoga, your choice. So even just moving is great. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to follow my protocol. You can just get up and move and walk and smell the roses, and that's good enough. So looking at this, the largest number said, okay, it's possible for me to improve my exercise routine if it is not expensive and not time consuming. So what I've found so far through these 4 answers was that there is a common denominator, cost and time. So it doesn't have to cost really much to exercise. In fact, it doesn't have to cost a thing. Time. You can do it throughout the day just by getting up and walking, by moving. And we all have time to move. In fact, if we don't move, then we better start thinking about the entropy of the cellular and molecular structure of our bodies, because it is in our bone density, it is in our muscle mass, it is in our ability of our central nervous system to communicate the information through our neurons to our brain, and it's highly essential that we exercise our brain for brain plasticity. The last question, I did this as an interesting one. Do you want others to think you look like a longevity advocate? Meaning walk the walk. Do you want to look like someone who is healthy? Do you care how you look or what others think of you? And I found the answers to this to be very interesting. The majority of respondents, through the hundreds who responded, said, extremely important, I want to look great and be great. I don't need recognition. I love that. I thought that was so great that people want to look good, feel good, be have that sensibility, that commitment, but don't need the recognition of being a leader. That is great because not all of us are leaders, not all of us can be leaders. In fact, we may think about who our leaders are. I mean, there have been some fallacies. I'll get to that in a moment. But what I found interesting is a number of people here in this blue area said, not important. I don't focus on what others think my role is or how I look. I found that a little bit defensive, but I wanted to see if there was that within our community. And I think that's really interesting. I kind of admire it, even though I don't necessarily agree with it. I do admire and respect it. So by all of that, I think it's really important for in our longevity routine of what we eat, how we exercise, our level of psychological nourishment through friends, through love, through our partners, and just being with people who make us feel good and respect us, very important. And the rest, the relaxation, the reduction of stress and getting into that deep sleep for at least 15 minutes. I think it's really important for us to take a look at what's going on in our community. Not all therapies will be best for you. And I say you in capital letters. We each are different and have different needs. We have different genders, different body types, different age groups, different demographics, etc. at all. We need to check the facts. And I mentioned the blue zones here because I just wanted to select one. There's many, believe me, in my research that I've uncovered of fallacies and misinformation. But I think the blue zones are very important because they focus on the same areas that I focus on, that I've been focusing on for over 40 years. The blue zones over the last few years have gotten a lot of attention and made important headway in helping people understand the world around them and their place in it, and to at least think about nutrition and community, etc. But there's also some fabrication in some of the details, the numbers, for example. In one country, 80% of the people that were said to live over 100 were dead. I'll just use that one example, and that is a fact. If anyone wants to email me, I'll send you my research on this. But not all people that were recorded to live to 100 and 110 and over actually were alive during that. And there's some reasons for that, some a little bit of fraud in getting government monies and claiming people were alive, and there's certain status for countries to say we have older people. But it's also, I think, not so intentional. Perhaps there is a bit of unintentional behavior there. Sometimes it's just not recorded or the records are sloppy. So we need to really think about when we're promoting areas like blue zones, and I'm one who's been an advocate of blue zones, to stop and pause and think, well, let's be critical about this and look at the numbers and look at the evidence there. And I think the same thing with longevity clinics. There's so many popping up around the world. I just gave a talk on this in Europe recently, and I found that many of the clinics are producing therapies that haven't been proven to be effective. I'll give one example of a clinic in Beverly Hills where the medical team, who were renowned, were providing fabricated stem cells to patients and charging them tens of thousands of dollars. Now, there was a lawsuit, and yes, those doctors were indicted, and it's a big issue. But it's beyond that. I think the important thing is that just because it says it does something doesn't mean it does. So we need to watch out for, I put the words here, virtual signaling, bandwagon effect, false hope, social pressure, and echo chambers. Let's be smart in our healthy longevity. Let's think about the art, the state of the art, the cutting edge, and also the ability to aspire to go beyond the norm, to be as rich and smart in our thinking and in our actions as possible. And I think that means the highly skilled and proficient longevity routine or habits that each of us have in our many ways. We can learn from each other. We can help teach each other how to be better in our lives so that we can live as long as possible, as healthy as possible. So to echo what I said earlier, please commit to your own health, don't quit, and look at the state of the art, the cutting edge knowledge, the therapies that do work, and what we can do to achieve a better, longer life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natasha, for the heartwarming presentation. Any questions from the audience? And as with Jose, please Natasha, please read your chat. If you see any questions you want to answer, you're welcome to do so.
Let me see.
Are there any questions from the audience? Yes, please.
So in terms of, you say that it's important to personalize our protocols. So how do you recommend to do it? Tracking by some smartwatches, maybe blood tests? Like, What's the right way?
There are so many ways to do it. I mean, the industry and the movement is flooded with devices to track. I've got my ring on right here that Joanna Bentz gave me from the Longevity Center in Warsaw. I wear it every day. It tracks my sleep. There are so many devices. In fact, there's so many apps that people are using today on their smart devices to better track what they're doing. If any of you have learned a new language, like French or Spanish or Russian, for example, and you've used Duolingo, you know full well what a team player Duolingo is. It will remind you that you need to take a lesson. It'll remind you that you need to get up and pay attention. And that's what these apps are doing. They're friendly reminders, egging you on to be more proficient, egging you on to engage and get up and move and pay attention to the world around us. And I think we need more of that. One area that I think that is really needed for that is to remind us when something is going a little bit stressful, or you're seeing a little bit of negativity amongst your immediate group or something that you're doing, your interactions, have a buzzer there and get away, stop it, move on. It's a waste of time. And when people say they don't have time to exercise or prepare healthy food, or at least pay attention to it, but they have the time to let someone else scold them inappropriately or be around negativity, I say, let's get our priorities straight. We have
Thanks.
time to be healthy. We don't have time to put up with stress. And thanks to the apps. So to answer your question, yes, the apps. I don't want to get into blood work and all that. I think that the longevity clinics, the many of them that are great, know that. And we all know that we need to have our blood work done once every 6 months or at least once a year. So thank you.